Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditation practice that enters a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. How do we know what we draw? Where does it come from? Is it part of our imagination? Is it part of the tools we use or the media we work with? They all combine together in this. But over time, we build up some techniques, some strategies, maybe some habits, good or bad. How do we release those a little bit, to loosen them up, to allow a playful generation from the mind? Those influences present and supporting us, the way to hold the pen or pencil, the way to move your hand, the way to position your body in the page, all useful practices. But sometimes we want to let them loose, see what we can find in the space between the unexplored, and get a little uncomfortable with our regularity. This week's exercise will explore that space through an act of unautomatic writing, a way of letting the hand dance with the pen and come up with its own language. We release the mind's grip on letters, words, structure, and let a new one emerge, obviously influenced by our experience of what writing is and what words might look like, but free from the connotation and meaning, to see if something new happens. And we'll do that by giving ourselves just a little bit of structure and constraint, those ruling lines that go across the paper, the bars holding the text. And within that range, we can let the hand do whatever it wants to do. Move left to right, up, down, diagonal, anything, and see if a little patterns emerge and we have a little fun with it. I'm going to use my fixed position here, a taped down piece of paper that I normally work on. There's a bit of that challenge and constraint. It'll bring some tension to the arm and the hand, and that will hopefully be the impetus for release. But however you want to work, free page, notebook, sketchbook, something taped to a desk, pen, pencil, all of it'll work just fine. So go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. The idea I had today was to make a little language, a little visual language, have some play. So we'll start out like first grade or kindergarten when you had to write on those ruled lines. We'll make our little ruling, but we can play with that. It can be vertical, horizontal, diagonal, whatever you like, but we'll use that as the nice warm-up, just to get a series of parallel lines, a little challenge to it as we try to have them be a ruling across the page, but they wiggle, that's okay. We might bring into it some spacing, narrow spacing for kind of breaks in the line, and wider spacing to give ourselves some room to play with developing a little bit of what looks like a language. So we'll really run a series of these bars along the page, but they can change length depending on our breath and engagement with the pencil or the comfort of the hand. They might all be of various sizes, or try to keep them the same, up to you totally. And then when we come around to inhabiting some of that space we made, you can kind of play and make up anything you want in there. Maybe little figures or emojis, maybe some repetition, or just a series of little marks that are indecipherable. Would give our hand some time to have some fun there, playing out along the bars. And we'll see where that takes us. I think I'll start with a pencil just to do the establishing lines, and then maybe move into pen for doing the more quick stuff, see how it goes. With a paper that's all fixed in front of me, give myself a bit of a challenge to try to draw horizontally across that page. Feel free to adjust however that page feels comfortable to make those lines. It can be a little tricky when the wrist bends funny. But as we get ready for that series of parallel lines, structuring a little bit of language, just take a couple of moments to settle into our space, make sure we can feel out that whole area that we're working with, moving the spine a little bit from side to side, the trunk able to align the shoulders, The arms extending out from there, able to reach through the page, giving us control and presence in our space, and awareness of its edges and where it feels engageable. And then we'll dive right into the breath and drawing some of these parallel lines again. Horizontal, vertical, diagonal, whatever you like. A series of kind of bars or measures. And then the first one, as you're ready somewhere on the page, breathing in and filling out a little bit of territory within the body, exhaling a line out across the page. And that is our first piece of the measure. Whatever orientation it takes is where we'll build off from and see what comes. And as again, we'll oscillate between a couple of close lines, so repeating that same line just a little away from itself. Breathing in to steady and out, to track along the two near parallel conditions, just to giving it a little heaviness or weight on the page. And then we'll move a bit farther, a bit more space between them, just a comfortable amount of space, like the ruling on a piece of paper that we write on. Breathe in at the beginning and follow the breath out along the same path. And we'll guide into following more of the breath with the eyes, less the breath following the eyes, but the lines can be kind of equal length or varying length, whatever comes out naturally through that cycle of inhalation. And the gentle exhalation as the hand moves across the space of the paper. Some might be a little shorter, some might be a little longer. We'll try to keep roughly even, narrow and wide gaps. Inhaling at the beginning, relaxing through that line. Eyes tracking the one above as the breath eases the hand across the paper. Big challenge is that coordination of tracking. It's very likely many will wobble a little bit. As we breathe, we can bring them back closer to what we perceive as that parallelness. Or start fresh again, a little gap like a paragraph. Take a few moments, quietly follow that inhalation from the end of the line back to the return. Follow that exhalation from the beginning across to the end. And listen to the sounds around you, that exhalation of the breath, the inhalation of the breath. Perhaps a scratch of the pen or pencil onto the page. Growing bars, the growing structure of the paper, just lightly unfolding from that cycle of breath. An exercise in itself, the steadying of the hand, the steadying of the attention as we move an instrument, external, extended from ourself, across a medium. Trying to hold that attention with the eyes. Hold that attention with the body. Unless you practice this every day, it's going to be quite a bit of wiggle to them, but they generally go across. They generally stay parallel if we take our time and some patience to guide them. going at the pace that allows for some freedom to the movement so they don't become too bunched up, but doesn't get wildly out of control. As the page is beginning to fill up, make your final few marks. You can always add more if you have more space. The time of marking across, following the breath deeply in and softly out, bringing a bit slower rhythm to the day, bringing a bit of relaxation to the body, to the flow of oxygen. And establishing out there on the page its own rhythm and relationship between the parts. We can always add some more, again, if you have space, but we'll switch gears a little bit and see if our hand and mind can play and dance across those bars. It'd be quite a feat to invent much of a language with consistency, but instead just playing in between the space, an imaginary language of shapes, a figure, of flow, pieces that fit together, gaps that separate, things that work across different datums, and mostly letting that hand loosen, letting it move and play, letting the mind release a little bit into not writing. You might bring in a few little fun quirks here and there, a dot, heavy dash, or a bar, an emphasis, something that you see as opportunity in the development of the structure. And mostly we'll let that mind soften and just move the pen or pencil around, not even knowing where it's going to go, as nearly automatic as you might be at writing. You know what the letters are and how they go together into words in our language. Then we lose sometimes the sensitivity of the attention to all the little work the hand does, trained since childhood to make those marks. Here, untraining a little bit, letting it make unfamiliar marks. Some of them might take on little bits and pieces from what we're used to. Nearing letters, but with just a little bit of nudge to move beyond. The language unfolding from motion, still structured in those bounds of the paper, the lines, structuring the paper, the page, giving us a place to work between, a size, a limit to that freedom and flexibility, but a loose limit. Direction, left to right, up or down, depending on how you establish your bars. Now, unlike what might be a real language, there's probably very little precise repetition, forming of the letter, but maybe we notice a few things we do with our hand when it's given that freedom to just move around. to wiggle in short bursts. And if you happen to see some, feel free to bring them into the motif. Repeat an action a few times. See if it can track along the story. And as you become more relaxed into the releasing of the hand from what it's bound to as words and letters into this new little unfolding language of the eye, of emotion. Bring some attention back to that breath. Just noticing the speed that you inhale and exhale while that hand plays and flows. It may be quickened depending on the dance that the finger and the pen play. Does it match up with the speed of motion? It may be slowed, held in as our attention flows out onto the paper. Just noticing the breath, bringing it back into our awareness a little bit. As we do that, whenever we do bring that back, we'll tend to regain some control through that awareness, the guiding of the breath. You can lean into that if you like, slow it down, establish a nice relaxing flow in and out, a slight reapplication of attention somewhere else, away from the hand, perhaps letting it open up a little bit, become more free to just move, play, and dance. Breathing in, releasing out. Depending on your pacing, bars may begin to fill up. There's more space on the page. You can always add a few more. Perhaps begin to bring them forward again by going over you did pencil the lighter marks, retracing along them, finding some kind of visual patterns perhaps in the hand's expression of these words. Maybe chunks that go together, highlighting them for future exploration. A reading of what the hand creates by the eye. We'll continue just writing along, letting the hand tell its story. Letting the mind loosen, release from the structure that's ingrained. Always that challenge between writing and drawing. The hand's so used to it, at least for some of us. that we pick up the pencil and we hold it that way to write. It can be a little harder to release into the way to draw, something that doesn't follow always the tight structure of repetition, of words, letters, numbers, but shapes that flex and move, that change position. Bringing a little attention to that with the exercise. Even noticing if there's a little struggle back and forth. Every once in a while, my hand just wants to write my name or something familiar. It's about to engage with the paper in a way that feels familiar. Letting a breath release that. Letting a little errant directionality, a wobble, challenge that automaticness. And as you reach the end of lines, you can add some more, rewrite a little bit, or take a few minutes, begin to draw into what's here. The first pass of the language, a quick jotting down of ideas, thoughts, the imaginings of the hand. The second pass can find shapes of interest, places of highlight, the beginning of a sentence perhaps, a place of punctuation. An accent of emphasis, bringing a little calligraphy to the writing. So take a few moments, scan through, forward, back, up and down, play and find. The sounds of the street construction that they just started outside aren't going through too much, but the repetition of the jackhammer made me think perhaps we can bring a new layer of emphasis to the structuring element. For me, the lighter pencil lines fading into the background from the more contrasting ink lines. And maybe giving them a little flourish, a little rendering and material, as if they're lightly etched into the page, like marks in a piece of clay or something. Just a fun little way to bring them forward, a retracing of them, or drawing into another way, both emphasizing and hiding the original structuring element, letting the page become its own drawing. The words blending into the background of all the strokes. And continuing to add nuance, layering to the letters, finding that breath again, retracing the strokes, letting the imagination wander into the mind of the hand. How is it moving? Do little flicks and flips of direction, mean of a letter, or other little patterns, the vestiges and remembrances of its training, its automatic writing out things. But as we approach the final couple of minutes of the time, I want to find the ends of lines, find a way of closing out perhaps these little errant, shorter ones, or just moments that seem to be a statement, a phrase, bringing a little consistency to the language, perhaps finding a sentence here or there, a place of emphasis, a mark of punctuation. Things that bring a close in writing, thinking, and drawing. Final examining of our space as we let the mind rest a little bit, come out of the interaction on the page, that capping things off, a chance to see it as complete. And as you're ready, letting the pen or pencil come to a rest, closing the eyes for a moment to separate ourselves from the artifact, just giving the hands a little wiggle to bring them back together. Some flexing, some twisting, returning them to a shared symmetry. Take a couple of breaths, again, eyes closed or lightly focused. And on your next exhalation, let them open and see the page again, the writing. Scan over it for a moment or two. Maybe something pops into the imagination, little things here or there, interesting opportunities. As if you can take some of those playful dancing figures out with you to the rest of your day. And now I feel drawn in here. The tablet emerging, some history behind it, a thing lost to the knowing of time. Really no meaning whatsoever, but maybe in the shapes, a few wiggles and flexes of the arm have repetition, have the potential to become a structure of a symbol, a structure of an idea. It reminds me of being a kid, coming up with our own little codes and languages to try to write to each other, and how much energy and effort of the mind went into kind of that playful, artful endeavor. Found one of these recently from childhood, a friend and I had made, and undecipherable anymore, but an interesting opportunity at the time to play, to dance, to let the hand do something not so ingrained and trained to it, but to create through a known mechanism. Hope you enjoyed the exercise. If you do, give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and come back every week for new episodes of Mindful Drawing. And thank you all for joining, and hope you have a wonderful week. Draw well.